So thank you guys, and welcome to ScrapeCon 2024. This discussion will be the executive playbook, best practices in operational and financial aspects of mission critical data collection. We have with us an esteemed panel. We have Ernesto from Ixigo, Ganesh from Rakuten, and Michael Bagelman from Clara Analytics, the founder from Clara Analytics. Thank you all. And I am Omri Orgad, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Bright Data. And I've been with Bright for the last 10 years on this amazing journey that actually all of you were part of. Let's start the discussion. What are the main challenges that you guys are trying to solve with public data today?
Well, in travel and for Ixigo, a lot of them, because we are not a traditional travel company. So we became an OTA because we want to actually sell and get revenue. But we are a product and tech company. So we actually build things with data since long time ago, even before this wave of AI and big data that is all around. Because we used to be the first one launching price prediction, to give you an example. Okay, the first travel method that was using data for that. We built a lot of products that are based on that. And in travel, real-time data is really critical. And it's a challenge to get that. Sometimes because the sources, they close a bit what they want to share. In some other times, it even is a technical issue. Okay, so a lot of people, even they want us to scrape them because there is no API available for that data. Okay, and it's a kind of like a common thing in the travel industry that there is a lot of information available, but just getting curated in the same place with the verification that requires that data, it's a challenge. And
how do you see AI change the data requirements or the data?
What I've seen with AI is that it simplifies some of the things. In the past, to give you an example, writing a data curation algorithm so that will allow me to ensure that the data that we scrape from, I don't know, an airline site. Okay, so we are scraping maybe the baggage allowance. It's one real problem that we have right now over the table. Okay, so we scrape the baggage allowance from a cryptic kind of system that comes in GDSs like Amadeus and the booking systems. Okay, every airline, they write their baggage allowance as they want. Okay, in some airlines, maybe they say, okay, 20 kilograms, 2 pieces. Another airline, they say 20 pounds. Another airline maybe has another restriction that is unlimited luggage pieces, but in 30 kilograms. And it's not structured, that information. Okay, it sounds like a simple problem, but when you have like 200 airlines all around the world with different kind of sub-airlines and different kind of comments and different kind of ways to put that data, just what we used to do in the past is creating some small ML algorithms that were curating a bit that data, trying to scrape that one, then train, fine-tune, and all of that with the new AI wave has been simplified a lot. Okay, just maybe with a basic prompt or some small fine-tune of one open source LLM box, we can get even better results than before. So before maybe used to get a 90x% of accuracy, now we have 100%. So there is no single fail on that experiment that we ran in the past weeks with LLM. That's what I want to say, is that basically simplifies. I would say that what happens with AI right now is a bit commoditized. So it's simpler to anyone to access to the same things. So now it's a turn of who is faster, who can actually put together things and then get value from what is available to everyone.
We're in an era of just in time. No one is patient. People want everything now, and people want to act in the most current information. So the paradigm that we had was that a product that would only leverage, 1 to 4 year old data was what we would call descriptive analytics. But business wants prescriptive and predictive. And that chasm can only be crossed by getting access to real-time data. So the challenge that we endeavored to solve, and, kind of that was the backdrop to your question, Omri, right, is there is real-time data that's out there. The problem is I have a funny, cynical view I think you all could appreciate. When I started in the business, we used to use a term, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Do you remember this?
Yep.
So my joke is now that's like super easy. The reason being is it looks different. Now we have a different problem. We have to find a unique piece of hay. So the issue is finding a unique piece of hay is much harder than finding a needle in a haystack because it looks like all the other pieces of hay.
To mention also one problem that I suffer with the data is that, and right now I'm still suffering for the first time, is that we have a problem with AI generated content also. Okay, so not with the data that we generate, with the data that we want to consume in public sources and actually has been generated with AI. So a real example of that. So we use the crawling process of images from Google for a lot of things. So basically we have an algorithm that is able to generate and scrape on Google Images what is trendy, new pictures that come from Taj Mahal. Okay, so then I can analyze those images to see if a place is trendy or not. If maybe some new features from a hotel that I was not aware that they have a pool. Okay, I'm able to get all that information from pictures. But the problem is that right now, 10% of those pictures that we get from Google are AI generated ones. So it's crazy. Okay, so it's broken. And this is now. Okay, maybe 1 week from now we'll talk, and maybe instead of 10 is 20. Okay, so there is a lot of content that is getting in forums that is generated with AI, a blog post that has been generated by AI. So a lot of, I will not say garbage because right now it's not garbage, but the problem is that trying to get what you want from that public data that is not anymore human generated is a challenge. And we are suffering that. Okay, so right now in Ixigo, when we try to get real-time data and as accurate data as possible, because that is not anymore something that I will trust. Okay, it was happening in the past with reviews, the typical reviews written by bots and all of that. But before it was simpler to identify them. We used to have, again, coming to the data quality, I was able to drill down, okay, and find out, okay, these reviews are bots, these reviews are, but now I can't. So that's my, I want to, sorry to open that other top.
No, it's what I was saying. It's the needle in the haystack versus a unique piece of hay. Now it all looks the same. That's the problem.
It's impossible. It's really, it's a challenge, okay? Because maybe the way we look at public data, it will change dramatically in the next years.
The way things have progressed, the shopping patterns are very different now because people are so used to generative AI dealing with ChatGPT. The kind of search phrases are very different now. Someone would come to our website and say, Chris Martin top. Now, we need to understand who the hell Chris Martin is first. Okay, he's in a Coldplay band. And if someone is searching at this point in time for a top that he wore, which was the latest concert and where was it held, right? So how do you get this information? Again, it's from web data, right? So earlier we would, look at certain influencer websites, or we would look at brand websites or aggregator websites. But now you need to look at ticketing websites. You're not trying to gather information about tickets, but you're trying to see who's the musician trending these days in Billboard, and what are they wearing these days, what brands they're associated with, and stock them up because some teenager would come and search for that particular attire, right? And since we are now opening up things more and more to the global crowd as well, you never know what is someone going to come and search for, right? And the terminology can be very different. What is called as, or what is referred to as speech by an American can be referred to as Kashmir red apple shade by an Indian, right? So the references there become very, very different, and trying to make sense of that is very crucial for us to help the search team so that the right kind of listing is shown to the user, and then a decision is made, hopefully, towards the purchase. And not just that, there are a lot of advertisements associated. There's a lot of recommendations that go with that. So there's a whole lot of science to this that we back on the web data for. And it's not just restricted to a location now, right? You don't know where the references are coming. And very strangely, the Netflixes of the world are also creating an impact. People have found their own hacks to view content of the country that they're not in, right? So the preferences are being dictated by the content that they're watching. So a lot of these pose good challenges for us to solve, and that's where web data becomes very crucial. Just going and getting the data from social media, let's say Instagram, is no more just about going and getting the hashtags or the followers of a certain influencer, right? It's about what is the content that they're making, where are they making that content, what's their background, right? And who's commenting on what, and who's verifying it, who's vetting the opinion. So a lot of those things have massively exploded. And this is only possible with the web data, right? And that's where it's really crucial for us.
Now that we have more layers of data, now you can ingest voice, you can ingest stories, you can ingest videos. Of course, you have to adhere to all of the compliance and all of the regulations, but suddenly the layers of data that you have are infinite almost. And I think maybe that's the challenge that you're depicting here, is the layers and the uneven play field that now that they serve you in order to understand something of the reality generated.
Yeah, so something that I've seen is that the structured and unstructured is, as you mentioned, with different kind of channels, it's what is different right now. So it's much simpler to structure what was unstructured before. And well, in travel is really meaningful because we are doing what you mentioned, and as I was explaining, we are using even things that we were never dreaming to use, like pictures. Okay, so to just maybe scan different kind of hotels based on pictures and then rank based on that. And it was not, it was kind of possible to do some basic classification in the past, but the power right now is out of this story. Regarding data and public data, also one problem that I suffer in travel a lot is the typical cat and mouse. I don't know if you say cat and mouse.
Cat and mouse, yeah,
Cat and mouse.
So it is
Tom and Jerry, right?
It's a really Tom and Jerry kind of game. Okay. Talking about the legality of that is, given the fact that even in Europe we get kind of permission to do these kind of things. But the problem is that even if you have the permissions, it's a challenge. Okay, so here the support of Bright Data is really good because we can manage to just scrape the things in a simpler and faster way. But it's even a challenge, even if we get your support, because now also the data is not just generated on public websites; it's generating on, you can call it, public applications. Okay, then it maybe are a bit close. But most of the data is actually, most of the valuable data for us is generated up. Even I put a real example. We have more traffic on public apps, and in terms of generating data for the train travelers in India, we are the main source where the rest of the folks, they want to get the data, because we have the real-time position of almost all the travelers in India when they pick a train, because we have then we can create products like where is my train located with more accuracy than Google. And even Google wants to get the data from our premises. Okay, so it's a challenge where to get that public data that can be available on websites, can be available on open apps, can be available on closed apps, and mixing all of that in a legal compliance way, but as also technical way. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
I want to segue to the last question. First of all, the discussions were very interesting before we start the last question. And I think it took us a bit longer than we expected. So we'll go into strategy. And maybe Ganesh, you can start with that.
Sure. So one of the points that I mentioned earlier also, right? It's to strategize what portion of the humongous web out there is what we'll focus on, right? And identifying certain curveballs, so to say, right? I'll take my own example. The last pair of shoes that I bought didn't come off of a research that I did on a runner's website or Instagram. It came from a website where I was just reading through the automobile, a blogger had written some pointers on the same car that I own. And he was mentioning that this particular pair of shoes is really good for long drives because it gives you that space on the clutch, right? And boom, I'm a runner and I have the same car and I picked up the shoes. So if I bumped into this route, I'm sure there are at least 100,000 or 1 million people around the world who can bump into similar routes with different other products, right? So how do we identify these curveballs, right? Because the way users are accessing information is so very different, right? Could be streaming engine, could be offline information as well, right? We all know that it's only a small portion of the shoppers who are making transactions online, though it sounds big. But a whole lot of shopping still goes offline. So how do you deal with that sort of an information? Right? What are the avenues that give us signals, right? Identifying the right sensors. So that is what we constantly look at. Things that are not very obvious, so that we bring in that perspective as well to our shoppers. And understanding a lot of these long tail products, how do we move them ahead of the curve as well? And also, the first time users, whenever they come, they could be hopping across different websites. And like an example that I said, right, if we were able to sell them something that the other websites couldn't understand or serve them, more likely that a community of such users will be drawn to our businesses. And there could be huge flocks of such new users also coming in. So yeah, that's one of the key strategies to be able to understand those curveballs, so to say. Yeah.
It's finding hay in a haystack, as Michael said.
Yep. And the haystack is getting bigger.
It's like a mountain.
You have no at your disposal.
What do you think, Michael?
I think strategically, we want to focus on data originators. This is really, really important. And to Nessa's point, it's actually getting harder to figure out who's a data originator versus a data regurgitator. So I think strategically, we want to focus on real data originators, and we want to focus narrower on data that helps people make better decisions, as opposed to like the wow, cool factor of like, oh, go after this new shiny thing and bring that into our tool and see what that gives us. So anyway, this is kind of just top of my thinking, Omri.
Super interesting. Be an originator. That's
originator is key, man.
It's not a new thought in the US, by the way.
Yeah,
it's core behavior, and I think that's also where Ernesto discussed that in an earlier debate, where you have to focus on the originator of the information and find those that are actually generating it and not resurfacing the information. Ernesto, what do you think?
It's actually really interesting and really complicated because that is one of the things that we try to tackle also on Ixigo. So for us, there are two things. So that is strategy and has changed in the last years for us. One is observability of the data. So in the past, we used to generate a lot of data, but maybe measuring the quality of that and detecting kind of flakes and change on that one on real time was not as good as it is right now. And the other one is real-time availability for the rest of the teams in the company to use that data to produce value with that. Okay, it was maybe we changed from a perspective of processing data and then getting value of what happens 30 days ago to process data in real time so that you can use that data in just seconds once it has been generated. Okay, that is a change that happens in our infrastructure and a change in the future also of the products that we build also that we can, in travel is really important, that real-time value of the data. And also what Michael was saying, detecting nowadays who creates really the data and remove the noise also in travel is important. And it's also important for us because we used to use maybe those meta aggregators to scrape them, maybe to get 20 travel sites with one single scraper. That is not valid anymore. So we need to go to the source. We need to detect who actually generates that valuable data for us, and then maybe just scrape them. And you open another door. That discussion about OpenAI and who is suiting who, everyone will suit that right now, everyone, because it's crazy what happens. But it's really interesting. Okay, so the world is moving so fast that it will be impossible to suit everyone. So we need to maybe again. It's like Google, okay? So we need to be open that the data will be more open than we dream. And I mean, we generate a lot of data, as I mentioned in Ixigo, for travelers, and we know that data is used out there. We try to protect ourselves, but at the end, what we need to do is build stories with the data that is generated, because we build those stories to the users, and they come to us and they generate more stories. Okay, so that is a kind of like cycle, the flywheel kind of cycle that we want to build in Ixigo, and that defines actually how data and our product are linked here.
Mami, just one more thing. I promise 30 more seconds. I think like I want society to go back to the ways of the open internet when it first came out, because the whole idea, it's like, if there was never a search engine, I mean, what are we going to do? Carry around a black book and write down websites? I mean, it's funny, but it's like the internet would have never been what it is today if it wasn't open. We had an internet that wasn't open. The government used to own it, right? DARP, ARPANET, and all that nonsense, right? Then when the internet opened up, it really became powerful, and it changed society. I'm sensing a reverting back of closeness. And I think this is dangerous for both society and not valuable for people in general. We've become accustomed to personalization. It's just who we are. When we open up Netflix, I think Ganesh, you said this, I want to see shows that I don't want to watch. I accidentally clicked my wife's profile and it's cooking shows. I'm like, what is this? When I open up my profile, it's sci-fi, it's this, it's that, right? So I think we've become accustomed to that. And I think that I'm hoping from a strategy perspective, governing bodies and businesses begin to really look at what's happening. The internet can never become closed, because we then go backwards as a society. I think the internet must stay open so the information is freely available. And I think businesses can actually make an impact here, because I think we're going through a period of everybody's buying locks for their doors, and that's not healthy. Anyway, this is just kind of my observation in the last year.
I think my perspective is that the importance of public data is, I would even say, is an even play field where can everybody easily ingest any kind of data is crucial to our well-being. The ingested of data and changing it and resurfacing the data in a different way is something that will be very hard for us to deal with as businesses, as people, civilians, in any version. And I think public data is super important as is. It has to be public, and I totally agree with that perspective. We're, in terms of times, we're up. We're actually over a bit. So first of all, I would say thank you very much. It was, even on a personal level, super interesting, and I hope people that will watch it will have an interesting debate to watch. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you, Ernesto. I appreciate your time and your understanding and sharing your views.
I'm super grateful to all of you as well. I really learned a lot. Honestly, I was taking notes if you heard me typing. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I need to look in this. I'm humbled to be part of this session because it was really helpful for me personally and professionally. So thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you.
Picked up a lot in this conversation. Thank you.
I'm here. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Good day, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.